Hey guys, it's Chris Advil from chrisadvil.com. I don't really post there as much as I should, but this is more for YouTube and stuff like that, and I'll just post it there probably. But anyways, this is a video of a breakdown basically of a photo shoot, which is not your typical photo shoot that you see every day. So I thought about sharing it on a video because I think it's an interesting story to actually share than than most typical shoots that I do, at least. Well, most shoots I do are typical. Unfortunately, at least for now, until I could get more resources to not be so typical. But this one's a little more challenging that I think would encourage and inspire other photographers or even artists in general. So I got this concept idea pop into my head as soon as we got the blizzard hit in my area, which they called as the Nor'easter Blizzard of 2017, aka Stella. So, it is, according to local news outlets in my area, they claimed it as the worst snowstorm and blizzard ever since 1993. That's about like 24 years ago. That's a long time. Long time. So it was a big epic storm. So now unfortunately I could not just, jump out during the storm and do a photo shoot. I, really don't have a whole lot of options to models or people in general to photograph during a storm. And especially with certain looks I'm trying to convey and stuff like that. Even with the limited options I had, the best I could do is plan for right after post blizzard, basically. And I did, and I got you know lucky sort of, because this last when you do last minute, last second type of shoots, it's a very low chance to actually happen, especially in my area. You know, because it's not an area where you could collaborate with a lot of professional models because in my area there's no professional models that actually are practicing full time professionally anymore. Either they're retired in the area or they're just way out of the bounds of the look I'm looking for, which is like more like glamour. If they have that too glamorized look or if their look is more glamour, I just try to stay away unless they have that unique look where it could fit into many different genres, which is not often. You have to be very blessed and lucky, or just work hard to have that look to be flexible in many different photography genres. So now the plan of this day, and I'll show you some finals. Some final. Here's a bunch of finals. Now this one specifically, I did release already. I'm now. I honestly, I normally do a drip release for my sets or photo shoots, just because I thought that was the best option. I at before, I used to do like a set of five or so, and I didn't want that pressure of just working on one shoot. I like to release one from one shoot and another shoot from tomorrow, and then another shoot another day, and so on and so on, for like personal projects and stuff like that. So that's why I did for the past, ever since I got on Instagram basically, and I started build up my following on Instagram, which you can follow me on Chris Advil, my name basically, at Chris Advil on there. And, it's not a whole lot of following right now, unfortunately, but it's I did work on it really hard for the past few years, and hopefully I could really boost it up a lot more with this series. It's not my typical work, of like more generic seasonal fashion photography, where I normally do that, but now I'm taking it to another level where I'm going to be exploring uh, more dark fashion, just because that's more dramatic, and I do like dramatic stuff, and it gives me more freedom to explore different stuff with the options I do have as for models especially, and I don't have a ton of options in my area, so I make do with what I have. So this one model, I she's really tall, and that's the perfect fashion look, basically. And she has tattoos, so it's perfect for alternative or dark fashion photography styles. The plan was to actually do off camera flash because I lacked I lacked that consistent and skill. Now, if you don't know my history, I did start in off camera flash oddly, which is not your typical start. Very similar to how Clay Cook did it. He did start with studio, you know, strobe and stuff like that. I don't have the very specific start, but he did mention that he did start with strobes. Now I also did it, and oddly enough, we also started photography in about the same year or so. He started, I think, he started in 2010, and I started in 2010 as well. He had a different, you know, upbringing, but his work has been a huge inspiration to me, especially him as a person, because he's very cool and awesome. You should really check out his work if you don't know it. Clay Cook. He's also having a F stoppers tutorial up and running right now. I would highly recommend it. And back to my story here. Now I do my plan was to do off camera flash. Now I did take two speed lights. That's my only two that I have, unfortunately. And I planned and I only plan to really use one. Now I normally just take an extra just in case as a backup, especially with my primary speed light being like constantly overheating for the past 6 months or so. I need to get it replaced probably. So that was a plan. Now I get to the park. Funny enough. Funny enough. Now I get all the stuff and I pack up a big bag because I'm here by myself with the model because this is last second. We didn't have crew unfortunately. So I park there and now keep in mind I don't really shoot in parks often at all. This is probably the first time in like a year or so ever since I stopped shooting around parks just because I like lines a lot. You can't really find a whole lot of lines in parks except for the trees, especially if they're consistent. Now I got tired of trees obviously, so I went towards more urban. That's more urban portrait shooter, fashion photographer. So back to this story is we start walking because the walk in here is unbearable because it's frozen solid snow basically, and we're walking on, and it's pain in the ass. We had plans to actually change into two more outfits this day, but once we got to the shooting area, which was about, if there was no snow, it would be like a 5 minute walk, but with the snow and like frozen snow, it was like a 15-20 minute walk one way. Now we had very limited time because this is sunrise. This is sunrise. Now I go to bed at sunrise. If you don't know me personally, so yeah, so this wasn't a pleasant schedule of shooting, but this was the only option because I wasn't available that specific day at sunset, which I normally do, and of course people will say, you can still shoot in midday, just stuff like that. You'll just need like a $1,000 or $2,000, strobe unit. Yeah, of course. I don't have that, unfortunately. So the idea was to use a dim light source, either sunset, sunrise. So, and then off camera flash as my key light probably. Didn't know yet. I didn't specifically plan very specific shots, not like that yet. I do plan on doing that more often as I progress with more equipment I could take and more crew people I could rely on to do that. So I grabbed everything and grabbed the tripod, the light stand, and now I realized I forgot. Before I left the car, I forgot my swivel. The swivel for to hold the light and the softbox and stuff like that. So it wasn't a huge deal. So I just went with the flow. Completely went with the flow because you can still use the off-camera flash without swivel. It's just going to be a little more difficult to get in the right shadows and stuff like that. So then I grabbed everything and went. Basically, we walked and walked and walked and walked. Yeah, and we got to the spot. So again, just me and the model. And then I realized I forgot the softbox. Yeah. So I, me and my stubbornness of getting the right light, basically, I decided not to use the light at all. It would not create healing light. Maybe a good kicker with the natural light being a key, but that's pretty much it. I decided not to do it just because I started realizing the sunrise was a lot faster than sunset. So I'm not really super experienced, obviously, with sunrise because I don't like to wake up in the morning. So that happened. So I started realizing the sun was really, really moving really fast. Probably half hour we're out there, and it was already. I could see like shadow being created from it, like sharp, harsh shadows, and I just basically started doing backlight. You could probably see in some of these shots, started doing backlight. So I just after that I took a couple shots and I just didn't like the light too much. It was just created really weird backlight type of shots, especially with like the temperatures, with the cold temperatures from the snow being created and the warm temperatures from the sunrise, which just created really odd mixed temperatures. So I decided to take us further down, as you probably would are in these sunrise shots where you started seeing the sun very high. So we started just walking further towards the tree line, just because the trees were creating a decent amount of shadow, enough shadow where I could get consistent light and shadows and soft shadows. That's my key and that's my style, soft shadows, especially on a female subject. Now, keep in mind, again, this is post blizzard, like literally a couple days after it hit. So the roads were decent, but walking in the park was not good, and the temperature was really low. It was 16 degrees Fahrenheit that time of day. Unfortunately, I had a difficult time. Camera had a difficult time. It was so bad my camera actually just froze. Literally, the LCD on the top where you have your settings froze in place. It didn't turn off, it froze. Never seen that before in my life on my cameras at all. So, luckily, I had just turned it off and turned it back on and waited a minute or so and then turned back on just fine. I just needed a little more warmth, basically. So, I did completely all natural light. Now I am very experienced in shooting natural light without using modifiers and still making it look pretty decently or pretty good in most cases, especially with the lenses that I use. I don't use a lot of lenses, but just mostly just the 7200 is my go-to lens, just because it blurs out the backgrounds usually very well, and it compresses the subject very well. Either full body shots, half bodies, or even close up headshots. I don't do a whole lot of headshots on these type of shoots, so you might not see that here. So just letting you know about the lens. So what's funny is we decided to do this right away just because we knew this would be the last snowstorm of the year. Probably, with Mother Nature acting up this way, we might get something in October, November, or December. Maybe a snowstorm. But we don't know. We can't plan ahead because you know, weather patterns being inconsistent and not as expected to be usual. So we just went for it, basically. So I think that's it, guys. If you have any questions or recommendations on shooting it in either in a snowstorm or after a snowstorm, just let me know. I'm open ears. If you have any questions on or looking for advice about shooting in snowstorms, let me know. It's my first time doing that, and I did learn a lot, especially with sunrise. I don't like shooting the sunrise, so I did learn a lot. I didn't expect the speed of that sun to move that fast, but it did, unfortunately. So, enjoyed the photography here, and let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys. Check it out in the blog.